much of a good thing, a cathartic thing that was for him.
Yeah, I think it just shows the emotions, to be perfectly honest, and the uphill battle he's having. You know, he's not come into Formula One and absolutely gelled with the car like Mick Schumacher has, for instance, at the same team. But listen, he's in there next year. Some people mature very different. Some people take a longer time. Maybe the winter will help him, but he was clearly on for a very good lap. But he's overstepped what was comfortable, and you know, it's bitten. But you don't understand, if you beat your teammate, how satisfying that can be, and especially if he can have a couple of successive ones at the end of the year. It helps him build the ladder of becoming a better Formula One driver.
If we're honest, there's not been a lot of love for him since he's arrived in Formula One, but you have to remember he got a couple of victories in F2. You know, he did achieve at that level, but it just shows you the difference, doesn't it, between some people can adapt to stepping into Formula One and others can't, or take longer to do so.
Yeah, F2 is very different. It shows you how much more pressure's on the drivers and how much more workload goes into a weekend, from media to marketing to the workload in the cockpit, and just the sheer strength you need to get through a Grand Prix weekend. There's a lot of eyes on you in a team when you've got 80-odd people working just for 2 guys versus an F2 team that maybe have 15 personnel. So maybe that's what he's struggling with. But you know, the reality is he can show that he can be as quick as the guys coming out of F2, and the guys in F2 have done well in recent years who've progressed up. So his time might just come a bit later, like you said.
What about George yesterday? Yeah, beaten by a teammate in a qualifying session for the first time in Williams, even though today is the qualifying for the grid. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
and on a fair fight. You know, Nicholas just had a better session. He looked like he was stronger on both sets of tyres that he had. He got the job done, and George congratulating him. I think Williams way out of balance, way out the window where they need to be, and surprisingly quite far off on a short track. So it shows some tracks that cars gelled, and what that team's going through the transition is trying to become more of a front end contender.
There is Max striding confidently towards car number 33. At the front of the grid again, such a confident guy. We'll come back to him, but again, go back to something we don't always talk about, and that is Lance Stroll out in 3rd consecutive in Q1. Well, what's going on with Lance at the moment? His confidence doesn't seem to be too high.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I expected him to be definitely more of a fight for Vettel, but Vettel becoming out definitely the kind of lead driver in that team, I would say. You could see the frustration with Lance. He was banging the steering wheel, but he just made a mistake. He ran a bit too deep into turn 10, got on the loud pedal, lost the traction, and I guess that's where the lap time sunk. It's not the best package, but it certainly should have got out of Q1. And I think for him, on the back of what we're talking about Mazepin, if you're on, you know, the 3rd consecutive time out in Q1, that just makes you push harder than you probably need to. And if you overstep the mark in Formula 1 just that little bit, you know, that's where it's a downward spiral. When I was out on track this morning having a look, that's where the difference between Max full of confidence, Lewis full of confidence. The car is alive. They hustle it round this track from lap 1 to the end of the Grand Prix, and they're just in a different league, absolutely a different league, how they get the performance out of it. And you can't pick what car's better, because they're getting the lap time out of it in a very different way.
Okay, let's step away from the grid for a couple of moments' time and head to the Sky Pad. Ant's got something on starts. Ant.
Yeah, so we've seen where we overtake on this track, but what do you do at that critical start? Right, let's keep an eye here on the last time we were here from 2019. Hamilton there on the outside, and Grosjean as well. Watch the progress they make by going to the outside of turn 1. It seems to be the place to be. Hamilton there on the outside of the Ferrari, and Grosjean around the outside of Raikkonen. Now, they both make it stick here. Another interesting thing is on the exit of turn 2, if you seem to be the car in front